Great. 11:01. Let's get started, guys. So good morning and thank you very much for joining Elite CISOs Elite Knowledge webinar, which we conduct twice in a month now. During COVID or till July 2022, 2 months back, we were doing four webinars or four such sessions in a month, but a lot of physical sessions are also happening now. So we have kind of reduced the frequency of online sessions to two sessions. The earlier session was on 15th of September, I believe, with Sophos, and this is our second session for September. And the title for today's topic is Defending Against Insider Threats. Guys, that's the title. Question to you all. Very recently, a very giant company got compromised because of a breach in an insider threat reason, right? So somebody got breached. Uber, the answer is already there before I can complete it, right? So Uber got hacked because of an insider problem, right? The threat related to insider because the MFA was kind of approved because the password was already compromised and the individual pressed the approve on the MFA token as well. And you know the story. So that's one example of insider threat. More examples and what risk it poses. We will listen from Shantanu today. Shantanu is joining us from Netskope and he works at Netskope as a cybersecurity architect. So Shantanu will do a deep dive into this topic and make us understand how do we defend against such insider threats. Okay. From the agenda perspective, as you see on the left hand side, quick welcome that we do. And then Shantanu will get about 40-45 minutes, maybe less than that, so that we can leave some space at the end for Q&A. And at the end, we will do question answers. We will give a participation certificate. We will have Wheel of Fortune, and the giveaway for Wheel of Fortune is a nice sound bar. So there'll be 3 sound bars for giveaway. One sound bar will be given away to individual who will decode the encrypted or modified string. So if you decode that, you will get the a sound bar, right? So it's like fastest finger first. As soon as you decode it, put it on the chat, and then you will get this gadget. And this session is being recorded. We record all the session and they go on our YouTube channel so that you can replay it. It's a good repository of knowledge that we have built over the time. So you can take benefit of that. And last but not the least, stand and attend challenge we have been giving away or giving to the community from past almost 3 years now, right? I do not shy away from showing this screen because important for all of us as IT or cybersecurity professionals. We have a desk job, right? If you sit a lot, you will have or you might have all these problems on the left hand side, like foggy brain, heart disease, your weight will increase and everything. But instead of that, take this challenge for at least 1 hour during this session. Stand while you're attending this session, right? If you stand, you will lose your weight. You don't have to care about getting fat and all. Your posture will improve. Your stress will be a little better. You will get more oxygen in your lungs. Overall, you will think sharper and better. And thinking sharper and better is required for understanding what Shantanu is going to talk about. Though Shantanu is not standing, he already knows the subject, right? So if you accept this challenge, go to the chat and say, yes, you are accepting this challenge. It is a virtual session, right? So your energy help everyone, right? Get excitement in the group. So accept this challenge, put yes in the chat. And with this, let me transfer it over to Shantanu. Shantanu, go ahead, kill the insider threat.
Thanks, Vikas. Thanks a lot for that
Sure.
background. I will just start sharing. Just give me one moment.
Good to see a lot of people accepting the challenge. Appreciate that. Prem, good to see that you are joining in. Prem Fulara, my colleague from 2002, 2003. Thanks a lot, Prem.
Just a moment. I just need to disable the chat pop-ups. 1 second, just give me one.
Sure. And then put it on slideshow when you're ready.
Yeah. Where do I turn off this? Don't show chat bubbles. Okay. No, I think I need some help there because how do I turn off the chat? I still get pop-ups.
I'm not sure. I don't.
Okay, 1 second.
There should be an option.
Shantanu, go to Teams app. On settings,
Yep.
you'll find an option. I've just sent the steps on Slack chat. If you can check.
device settings, I just see video and audio there.
Do you see meeting options? But that's, I think, for organizer, not for you, maybe. Press Alt Tab and just ignore the chat.
Yeah, let me see if that works.
Maybe go to slideshow and you won't see the pop-up coming in.
Yeah, should be okay. Let's see.
Cool.
Looks okay for now. Okay. Is the slideshow visible in the
Yeah, it's visible. Please go ahead.
Super, great. Thanks, Vikas. Thanks for that introduction. Sorry about that glitch.
No
Good morning,
problems.
everyone. Thank you for the time taken to join this webinar. I know that you have been attending a lot, many online stuff for the last few years, I would say. Just to introduce myself, my name is Shantanu Mahajan. I am working at Netskope for the past year, little over a year, I would say. I was with FireEye Mandiant earlier for more than 8 years and in the industry for about 20 plus years now. So thanks again for joining this session. I will try to keep it short and crisp. It's a really vast topic. Insider threats is huge. I don't want to bombard you with all the details that are possible out there. So we'll keep it short and sweet there. Definitely we'll have some room for questions later on. But let's get started. Let's see how this goes. So keep the questions coming in. We also have my colleagues also joined as well, who will help answer some of the questions on the chat as well. So having said that, the title of today's session, defending against insider threats. Now, it's like I said, it's a vast topic. But before we jump into all those details, let's have a quick look at the agenda. What are insider threats? Types of insider threats? Some examples out there. Uber was already cited by most of you out there, on the chat there. What is needed to defend, and can Netskope defend against insider threats, and some Q&A. Just a call out here, I have kept the Netskope part of it as little as possible, trying to make it more technology focused rather than vendor focused. So let's see how much we can address on that. Any questions specific to Netskope, we can always follow up post session. So it's going to be a short one, 45 minutes, 45 minutes is what Vikas is saying. I thought probably 97 slides will take a little longer. Just kidding, not 97. We have less than 20 slides, so don't worry on that one. Okay, so start off with threats. What are insider threats? Now, everybody is aware of this part, right? I mean, you are there in the industry for a long time. You are aware of what threats is. But if I were to ask, what are threats? Just threats, not insider threats. What are threats? What would you see? Yeah, so I would say a simple definition of insider threats, if we were to put up there, I mean, uh, not insider threats. Sorry about that. Just threats, right? I mean, how do you define a threat? A threat is a threat, right? That's it's really hard to put a finger on what threats is. And being in the security industry, there will be so many thoughts coming in. You would have seen so many different cases of phishing and attacks, APTs, so many malwares, ransomwares. All that suddenly clutter the mind, right? But a threat, if I were to put it up in a simple sentence, it is an intent or an action which tends to undermine the organization's objective of maintaining a security and a safe and secure working environment. That is what we can probably call or label a threat as at a high level, right? And primarily, I mean, we all know that. I mean, we have done so many security controls, we have all those in place and things like that. So if I were to categorize them into a couple of buckets, right? Everybody would expect this next, right? External threats. External threats, whatever is launched from the internet onto the organization. And that is what we have been defending against, putting up firewalls, putting up different perimeter protections out there. And it's something which is launched by an outsider, right? He's not an employee of the organization. He's not a contractor also. Most of these threats are launched by somebody sitting out there on the internet and targeting your organization. So we are aware of phishing, cloud phishing, spear phishing, so many different types of external threats. So that's one category of threats, obviously. The other part is the insider threats. Now, what is insider threat? Very simple. Again, most of you are aware of it. I'm not going to talk long on this, but these are the threats that come from within. When you say within, obviously it is the employees, it is the contractors, the consultants who are working for that organization on some projects, or maybe full-time employees as well. These are the guys who will knowingly or unknowingly expose data, and result that will result into a breach, right? So that's a simple insider threat definition. I won't say a definition; it's just a placeholder there of what insider threats are. Having said that, I just wanted to bring out one data point from the Verizon 2021 Data Breach Investigations Report. 85% of the breaches profiled involved some form of a human element. Now, it doesn't specifically call out whether it was external or insider human element, but 85% of the breaches were involving some kind of human element. Okay, so getting on to the next slide, let's look at what are the types of insider threats. Now we are going one step deeper into insider threats. External or outside threats are not part of the discussion today. So insider threats, we can categorize them again into two main buckets. One bucket is going to be intentional threats. Intentional as in, yes, they are pre-planned or they are intended to cause some harm to the organization. And you would have come across this term, the malicious insider. So malicious insider is one of the most important and one of the most dangerous threats from an insider perspective. And what is malicious insider and things like that, we will discuss a little further. So intentional threats is one category. The second category being unintentional threats. Now, unintentional threats further get subdivided into two sections, or there can be two classifications under unintentional. One is the negligent insider, a negligent or a complacent insider, right? Somebody who is careless. That's what it is mentioning about, and we'll see an example on that a little later. And the other one is the accidental insider. So I would say these are the main three types of threats in terms of malicious insider, negligent insider, and accidental insider. Okay, so that's at a high level, just what we have there. Now, this is one data point which is again very important, which I will probably spend a little more of time out here. So as you can see this statement, 1 out of every 7 users take data with them when they leave using personal app instances. This is basically published by the Netskope Threat Labs report in January 2022 this year. So it reflects, or it is a heavily loaded sentence if I were to put it that way. Primarily, you can roll back a year or maybe a couple of years back, and during the pandemic, everybody was working from home, right? And remote work is what was there. A lot of organizations allowed the users to use personal apps or personal SaaS apps. Maybe they might not have allowed officially, but there were no restrictions or there were no policies defining what should be controlled, what should be not, right? So that obviously was one place where a lot of personal applications, personal SaaS applications started to be used. Obviously, we know the situations of one laptop being shared in the family with the parents, with the children doing learning online and things like that, where there is obviously mixing of data, different kinds of data landing on the same machine and things like that. But having said that, you have a uh, lot of data on every SaaS application. That is what is there. The other part is, as the pandemic started ebbing away, right? That started fading away. Uh, users users were asked, or employees were asked, to start coming back to office. I'm sure most of you would have seen surveys from your own offices also, whether you would like to come to office on a daily basis or alternate days or once a week and things like that. Many of the organizations did that. But primarily, if you see, the working from home environment kind of appealed to a lot of people out there, and they did not want to go back to the office. And that is where you would have come across the term, the Great Resignation, where they started looking out for organizations who allow a flexible working environment and working from home specifically, right? So that's something that triggered a lot of change in the landscape as well. Very important change, massive changes, and when the users started moving from one company to another, obviously they're going to carry what they want with them, right? And this is where the personal app instances, the data backups that they have taken from one company going into another company, using it for whatever purpose. It might not be intentional. It may be a lot of it would be personal data as well, but a lot of confidential or organizational data also went into those personal app instances. Now that's a big exposure for any organization. That's a different problem statement to deal with. Security teams were really struggling to put their heads around that, right? I mean, it's really difficult to mind-boggling to look at the different options that they really have to close the doors on how restrictive can it be and things like that. So very loaded sentence, but yes, it kind of captures multiple things. On the cloud side also, we saw a lot of applications moving to the cloud. We have seen a lot of digital transformation there where all the on-prem data centers, many of the resources, compute resources and all have moved to the cloud. Very important changes out there. And yes, the adoption of SaaS services also increased a lot, right? So you are seeing huge chunks of data moving to the cloud, and there's a lot of loopholes out there. There's no specific controls out there, and employees are pretty much having access to everything, and they are actually organizations are at a risk of losing big time on those things. Okay, so that's an important data point. I took some time to explain that because primarily in the session today, in the presentation today, we'll be touching a lot upon these aspects of SaaS access, while insider threats covers a lot of other things, including on-prem also, but that's something that we are keeping it short here. It's a trim down session, like I mentioned at the initial side. We'll focus more on the cloud side of things and how you can prevent the insider threats on those things. Okay, so moving on to the next slide, let's look at the three types of insiders that we spoke about. The malicious insider being the first one. Malicious insider, again, it's basically a disgruntled or an unhappy employee, and he's seeking to have either personal gain or he's intending to harm the organization in some way, right? So it could happen due to various reasons. So an example that we have here is of a large beverage company, an employee working there. He picked up the recipes of the next product launch or the new product which was going to be launched in the market. He picked up the recipes and sold it to the competitors, right? What was the motivation behind it? It could be financial gain. It could be personal grievance. I mean, he was probably not happy with the way he was treated. Probably was denied a promotion. Maybe he didn't like the team that he was working with, or it could be financial distress as well, or maybe some significant event on the personal trend that prompted him to do such a thing. Because ultimately he's an employee. That's huge trade value. It is huge. It has a huge value. The recipe, the formula is going to be is everything that determines the success of the sales of that organization in the market, right? That being leaked to a competitor is really detrimental. So it literally destroyed the organization's competitive edge that they had here. So this is one example where you see an insider. He's an employee. He has access to systems. He knows how the system works. He also probably if he's there long enough, he also knows what are the loopholes in the system and how to exploit them. So that is something which is a very dangerous thing. And on top of that, if this kind of person is going to be offended in some way, that he wants to take revenge, he wants to get even, so to say, with the environment that he's working in, this is what is likely to happen, right? So this is a very important and one of the most dangerous, I would say, the malicious insider from that perspective. Now, having said that, uh, is this transformation instant is what one of the questions that might come, right? Does an insider who's an employee of the organization suddenly become a malicious insider? So when studies were done on that aspect, it was noticed that a lot of people go through hard times in the organizations, lot of different kinds of pressures that they go through. but it's not an overnight transformation. So the guys who actually turn into a malicious insider will have stages. They will evolve into a malicious insider. It's not that they are offended one day and suddenly spontaneously they start damaging the systems, the whatever data they have access to, and things like that. Uh, Most of them kind of get through it. They don't react, but there are some who cannot take it and they have uh, take revenge, so to say, right? And you can see the slide there where there's grievance, they are offended. They start thinking about new things. They will prepare, they will explore, they will do kind of recon, they'll try to collaborate with like-minded people who are also offended, who are not happy with the system and things like that. And ultimately they will cause an incident or a breach, data breach, so to say. Right. So this is an important aspect. It is not a spontaneous thing. In most of the cases, it is not. So that's malicious insider for you. So let's look at the next insider threat, right? The negligent insider. Now, like we discussed in the earlier slide, negligent, so malicious insider is an intentional insider, right? He is planning, he is intentionally trying to damage something or having, looking at personal gain. Here, negligent insider is causing damage to the organization through his carelessness. Now, an example here is of again of a large aircraft manufacturer. I have not put names there, but I'm sure you already know that the activities that he performed. So he was working on a spreadsheet. It had about thousands of records, some 35,000 records, and he was trying to work on that spreadsheet, and he was trying to format the data and try to create reports probably. He was not able to achieve that objective. It's a simple thing, but he was not able to achieve it, and he ended up forwarding that sheet to his wife, asking her for help with the formatting. It was just a simple help that he needed there. But this is what caused the uh, breach, you can say. The reason being that worksheet had hidden columns with multiple information which were related to individuals, their names, email addresses, address details, and things like that. And they were in hidden columns. He was not aware of it, but he ended up doing that. So this incident came to light, and obviously the company had to take off or had to make this particular uh, incident public, and they had to offer credit monitoring services in order to remediate or mitigate the damage that had been done. So this is a negligent insider. Again, you cannot ignore this. We need to see how we can probably control it. These are the kind of guys who don't have a malicious intent there. That way, he didn't mean any harm there, but he was just casual about it. And there are best practices to be followed in the organization, but he has probably jumped a policy, sent the worksheet to email, and got that through. So not a great thing to do. That's what a negligent insider will can also put damage to. The third one, the accidental insider. Now, we are all human beings. We make mistakes, right? Everybody does at some point of time. So that's where you see the accidental insider to err is human, right? And here is an example of an ISP, a large ISP. They did have a patch management tool. They had a patch coming in, was supposed to be applied to all the resources, the devices out there in their infra. The the guy just missed to apply the patches. That's it, plain and simple. So it's like, I mean, there are cyber criminals out there who are scanning the company's network, the ISP networks. They were able to find that, they were able to get leverage that vulnerability and get through, right? So it again resulted in a loss of literally millions of records of customers, and that's a simple mistake, oversight you can say, which happened, which caused this particular breach. So accidental insider is equally bad. You can look at it this way. Even when we see so many mails coming in, there are some people who know that they should not be clicking a link which has come from an unknown user looking suspicious, but they click it and they say, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," right? But it's story over. So that's accidental insider for you. Again, someone that we have to address to. So how do you defend against these type of threats, right? So for these are all employees, they are. It's not a problem of authentication. It's more about what they're allowed to access and what they should be doing with that resource or that particular data that they're being interacting with. So how do you defend? So taking again an example of a sales guy, John. He basically everybody goes through ups and downs, like we spoke about, right? Everybody has tough times in the organization. There are periods where you will be stressed out and you will be really frustrated, right? But not everybody gets into a destructive mood. There are very, very few who actually get into the destructive mood. But those few are the ones who cause the maximum impact, right? And or a very large impact. And that's something that is not really great. And that's what we see here. So John, we see he's not getting the bonus. He's a sales guy. He's not getting bonus. So he will probably be leaving soon. And when he leaves, he's going to carry all his contact lists. He's going to carry all his customer contacts just to leverage them in the next company that he goes to, right? So what do you do? How do you stop this? How do you identify it in the first place, right? So that's something that we will quickly delve upon the next few slides. So again, John is one of the employees. Or the slide that you see all the happy, jolly employees out there. John is this disgruntled employee sitting somewhere there. Finding him is going to be difficult because behaviors are different, right? All those users, all those employees in an organization, they are going and doing their day-to-day work. What is a deviation? What is not normal is something which is difficult to spot. You need to create a baseline somewhere which starts tracking their behaviors or starts tracking their activities, their kind of interactions with the applications that they have access to, and you have to get a handle on that. And once you have that, then probably it will help you point out or spot out some deviations for some users, which might lead to the discovery of an insider threat, right? So here you can see that everybody is going about their own task, and we don't know who has a motive, who doesn't have a motive, who is going to turn bad, who is going to turn into an insider threat. All are insiders, but who is going to get into an insider threat? We are not aware. So that's a problem which is going to be huge. It's going to be overwhelming. Spotting out John is going to be difficult. There he is, can spot within the circle there. But yeah, for the security teams, very, very tough to achieve this. So let's get into what this insider threats, why is it complicated? Now, this is where I would like to call reference to the earlier slide where I mentioned we are going to talk more on the cloud or the SaaS applications part of it and what activities can be done with those cloud applications and what kind of data protection things like that will step in. So this is a slide which gives you a view into insider threats, and it's complicated is what this slide calls it. And we just spoke about that with the example of John in the previous couple of slides. So you have actors. Now they are called actors here. Essentially, they are the employees or they are the users or the insiders of that organization, right? And there are different levels you can see in the actors part of it. You have executive level people, you have managerial, middle management, different departments. It could be a contractor and things like that as well. So that's the who's going to access the data, right? So that's the person who's going to access the data. The other parts of where is he going to access from? Is he going to access it from his company provided device or is it going to be his personal device? What is he going to do with that data? That is something which is going to be the question mark, right? We don't know. Is it his daily routine? Is it an intentional or an unintentional mistake that he's going to commit out there? So that's the motivation column for you. So you see there are intentional, there are a few activities there, fraud, grudge, revenge, theft, etc. And unintentional, we spoke about that. Somebody might just make a simple mistake out. Then the activity part of it, what is the activity being performed there? Is the user trying to abuse the permissions that he has? Is he doing multiple files, upload, download? Is he sharing it with external parties whom it should not be shared to, with it competitors and things like that? Or is it just plain permissions related issues, right? So these are things which are going to be variables again on the activity side of it. Then comes what is the type of data he is accessing, right? The user is accessing. Here is what we say. Now, this perspective is from a malicious insider's perspective, right? So what type of data is he going to access? There are 4 classifications shown out there: public, internal, confidential, restricted. Again, just the popular ones that we see. There are many more that nation. But having said that, what is that type of data is one aspect of it. Who's going to access? But now, if you consider it from the insider threat perspective, if you try to solve the person problem, which is going to be really, really difficult because of the various behaviors, the various emotional aspects of it, the various environmental aspects of it, and so many different variables. Each person is going to react differently. So if you try to drill down there, it's going to be tough to put a finger on it. It is going to be tough to defend against it. So what Netscope has envisioned is to start off from where it is easier to control or it is more predictable. So types of data is more predictable. You can define what are external facing, what is internal facing, and details like that can be attributed to that data, right? Who can access that data, what kind of access can be given, and things like that is a little more manageable. So essentially, if you look at it right now, an example is manager is working off-prem. Now it's an unintentional thing. There are incorrect permissions. There's an internal only document that he's going to probably share outside, right? So that's something that is an unintentional threat, right? From a manager perspective. Let's look at it from another user perspective. IT admin, he is there on-prem. It's an intentional thing. He's probably frustrated with something, and he is trying to abuse the access levels that he has. So he's trying to elevate his privileges or things like that. And he's trying to get a handle or a hold on restricted content, restricted data. Now, if you see, these combinations are too many. They're mind-boggling. It becomes very tough for a security team to actually have a handle on all of these, right? So that's why trying to solve it from a user perspective, trying to solve it from a threat insider perspective, it becomes very, very tricky and difficult. So, what are the key takeaways from that particular problem statement? I would say insider threat, trying to deal directly with the insider threat, like we saw, right? There are literally uh, hundreds of combinations. There are multiple, like exponential number of possible insider threats. It does become overwhelming for the security team. That is one aspect of it. The other important aspect, if you look at it from an insider threat management program, a proper full-blown threat management, insider threat management program, it calls for different disciplines. It requires different teams. It requires a multidisciplinary team who's going to look into those insider events or incidents. It does take amount of skill. Identifying, probably you can leverage a little bit of technology, a little bit of people monitoring each other, or just being aware of what others are doing and things like that. You can rely on technology in the identifying part, but assessing that insider's behavior, is he getting into a threat mode? Is he turning from a normal, a perfect insider employee to one of the negligent, accidental, or malicious insider? Assessing that requires skills. It requires definitely it requires a set of way to. You need a proper flow to assess who is good, who is not, or who is behaving risky or suspicious of late. That is the difficult part in the assessment part of it, and it does require special skills to do that. Then comes, how do you deal with it? If you find somebody is not really or is getting into an insider threat mode, how do you intervene? How do you pacify that person? Because you have two objectives now. You have to protect the organization, but you cannot just kick out the employee just because he was found to be violating a few DFP policies. Maybe accidentally, maybe negligently. We'll need to coach him, right? So, what kind of intervention should step in? Those are kind of things which become very, very difficult at a insider threat management if you were to go that way into that line of thought. So, and if you look at it, you can never eliminate insider threats. Uh, why? I mean, it's a very wonderful line that is put out there. You can't eliminate insider threats because as long as you have employees, there will be insider threats, right? And there will be multiple combinations. The larger the organization, the more complex it is going to be to deal with insider threats. Okay. Okay, so you can mitigate and manage risk is what we are going to talk about. So instead of tackling the insider threat problem head on, what Netscope envisages is start from the insider risk side of it. So insider threat is an action which a employee can take on the resources of the organization. Insider risk is basically you are looking at the resources and seeing what is the risk to that particular data, or what is the risk to that particular infrastructure if it is systems related, and you're going to start putting controls on that part of it, right? Which is it's definitely much more controlled approach than looking at the people side of it. that is what you see on the slide right now. Insider risk, you know what data you want to protect. You can put the appropriate controls on it. And then when you mature to a level where you have full controls or a proper set for your data, the way it is accessed, what kind of policies exist, what kind of users are accessing, any kind of deviations, all those systems are in place, then you can move into a full matured program of insider threat, a proper threat management program. Now, a quick, or I would say a slightly more detailed view into managing the insider risk. Uh, Start off with data protection. Start by protecting the sensitive data in your organization from the different kinds of threats. Obviously, for that, you need to have a proper a mature data DLP engine, so to say, which will help you identify the confidential content in your environment, where all it is present, what kind of exposure is there, what kind of sharing should be there, it should be restricted and things like that. Start off with that as a first step. Uh, so data protection being the first part of it. The second part that you see on the left is the user and application risk controls. So you have user controls, you have application controls, you have risk related, which are tied to users, which is what a UEBA or user behavioral analytics engine will help you on. Application level controls or application risk controls is basically who can access that application, what kind of activities can be performed with those applications, what kind of policy controls do you need in place for that access as well, and to what kind of user. So you have a full blown contextual policy. Now, context is a word which I'm sure you would have heard so many times in a lot of presentations. But essentially, context is giving you a little more deeper dive. So, for example, if you have a user uploading certain content into OneDrive, what does it tell you? It doesn't tell you anything. It could be a normal user doing his work. It could be a malicious insider uploading something confidential, right? But now if you tie that upload of that data to maybe a DLP inspection and see that if it is PII data or if it is source code or if it is any kind of PCI data or whatever that matters to your organization. If that is the content being uploaded, then I need to know. And now I have a little more context about that application. Is that user allowed to do that activity? That is the user context of it. What device is he coming from, right? So you have different aspects of user risk, application risk, device risk, environmental risk. All of these are what combined together will, you can say that you are looking at a weighted average. You are not just looking at one activity or one user in isolation. You're combining it with multiple factors and judging whether or taking a call whether this should go through or not go through, or the user needs to be guided, right? So that's contextual policies. And that is very, very important in the cloud world, right? So all of us are aware when you have, I mean, when the Great Resignation part of happened, a lot of people have uploaded a lot of content into S3 buckets or into webmail or cloud storage like OneDrive or Google Drive, right? Now the problem statement arises where if the same SaaS app is being used as a corporate or app also. So let's say OneDrive is the corporate cloud storage. You have a lot of content there, and then you have OneDrive either for your new organization or for a personal use. Will you? How will you catch if anything is going where? What is going where? Right. So you should be able to have the ability to identify what is the corporate SaaS instance. You should be able to identify what is personal SaaS instance. Is there a data transfer happening from corporate to the personal side of it? What kind of data is it going? If the user is just uploading some personal information, which is probably just some harmless part, she should be allowed to do that. Again, depending on organization to organization. But if it is company information, for example, he's downloading a lot of files from his corporate OneDrive and then uploading it to his personal OneDrive, then yes, that is something that we will, our UEPA should be able to trigger that this is a suspicious activity, right? So those kind of controls need to be in place, and that's what you see on the left is about contextual policy controls. Okay, so I will have to hurry up here. Just check on time here. So next one is analytics. So from the analytics aspect of it, it is essentially to find out what are the gaps, what are you missing out on, right? And who are the ones who are likely to be deviating or likely to be getting into insider threats part of it. Those are things which analytics will be able to throw light on. So there are multiple aspects to it again. For instance, if the user is accessing again OneDrive, for example, he's accessing personal OneDrive and there is no block policy, but he just gets a pop-up saying that you are accessing your personal OneDrive. Do you still want to proceed? He clicks on proceed and he uploads to.
Shantanu, just one, your analytic presentation is not showing basically. It's showing earlier managing insider risk.
Yeah, so it's still on the last section, analytics on the right side. Are you able to see this? I'm still on managing insider risk.
Yeah, please go ahead, Shantanu.
Okay, thanks. So that's the analytics part of it. Again, like I said, giving you visibility into what needs to be investigated further. Okay, and on top of that, you also need to consider a few more use cases which are going to be important when looking for insider threats. Account protection, any kind of compromised users in your environment. Privileged user monitoring is going to be super important because who has the keys to the kingdom is what privileged users are having the keys to the kingdom, you can say. Monitoring their activities is going to be very critical, and any kind of misuse needs to be spotted out. Attack detection, it could be ransomware and things like that. Yes, definitely an element to look at that. There have been instances where an insider's machine, there has been ransomware because he clicked on a malicious link. Encryption started, a lot of encrypted documents started getting uploaded to corporate personal folders and things like that. Risky users, again, identify what kind of risky activities they are doing. Are they bypassing the warning that they get that you're uploading confidential content? Any other kind of DLP violations that they have, and you can look at it in combination. And insider threat detection primarily to look at the trusted insiders who are behaving in a suspicious manner. So these are use cases to consider as well. If I were to put them together, again, you see the slide similar to the one previous. You have different people, you have different ways of accessing on-prem, off-prem, managed device, unmanaged, what kind of access, what kind of activities are being performed and with what data. So we covered the contextual risk-based access controls in the previous slide. The important part also comes in the policies. The policies have to be dynamic. You should have a way to measure the user's risk score or his risky behavior. Drop down is user confidence, as we like to call it, right? So he drops from a 100% trusted user to a little bit lower, and there is a scoring mechanism for that. So as and when he performs any kind of suspicious activities, his score keeps dropping. And once his score drops below a particular threshold, you should be able to dynamically adjust the policy because fixed policies are not going to help in this world, especially because of the different behaviors that users are going to depict and the kind of activities they'll do. Like we spoke about the previous example where people are moving from organization to organization, they're carrying a lot of data. So in the last 30 days, when people are serving their notice period, they tend to copy literally tons of data upload download happens, and those kind of activities needs to be monitored, right? So those dynamic policies have to kick in. They should be able to restrict the access if need be, or coach the user on whatever is happening. If it so happens that there is also data infiltration, the new employee joining, he also brings in a lot of data and he tries to upload it to the corporate cloud storages. That is again a challenge because there are so many NDAs in place. You should not be reusing that data and things like that. Clauses are there in every organization, right? So that is again something you need to protect against. So that's in short for achieving integrated protection. A very simple insider risk example of a South American South financial services company. Their requirement was to maintain compliance for cloud storage and ensure that the call center employees only use sanctioned applications, which are subscribed applications like O365 or something like that. In 30 days time, they were able to see about 79 attempts to non-sanctioned apps, right? So there are so many different apps. Now it might be allowed in some companies, it is strictly not allowed. Definitely in financial services companies, it will not be allowed. So One part of the program is also going to be look at those risky users, make a list of them, keep a watch on them, on their activities. What are they doing? Are they uh, are they continuing to do the violations and things like that, right? And build in dynamic policies as well. And obviously, probably as part of the awareness, they need to be coached as to what is right, what is not right, if they are not aware of it, if they are an accidental or a accidental insider with or a negligent one. So that's a quick spotting of the insider risk case study. Now, what is equally important, and I will end my slide with this one: technology is not enough, right? It also takes culture. So now, when we say culture, every organization is proud about the culture that they have built or imbibed into their employees, right? And that is a very, very important thing that nobody should take away. If you look at it, every employee, right? If you have access to confidential data, you can also be a threat to it. But what if you flip that perspective, and what if you become a guardian to it, right? So how do you become a guardian? How do you do it? So technology will not have all the answers. You will need to have people. You'll need to imbibe that awareness of a few basic which are going to help the organization in a big way. So some of them are listed out there. For example, always follow policy. Policy has been there to safeguard the organization, to safeguard any kind of breaches or data leaks. Always follow the policy. Don't deviate. Is the basic thing that everybody should follow. Learn and identify social engineering attacks. Right. So phishing attacks. Somebody pretending to be your uh, senior management, your CEO, report it immediately. Those kind of details. Don't click on unknown links. Everybody that's aware of these basic things, but these go a long way other than the technology part of it. Right? Report security incidents immediately. Understand the risks. Whatever access you have, ensure that you are not abusing that. Use common sense is put as the last one, but it is probably the most important. If you get a mail which says it's offering you tons of money just for doing something silly, it really should trigger your common sense, and you should realize that you are probably getting into a wrong track there, right? Getting misled there probably. So this is again very important. Technology will not solve all the problems. You will have to put some basics, fundamentals out there as well. So having said that, I will just share a couple of resources which are really great. The first one, again, these are both on YouTube. Uh, I would say the first one is definitely a must watch. A very beautiful example, a beautiful demo actually, of how insider threats and a malicious insider threat, how he abuses the system because he knows it, is really portrayed well there. I would really urge you to watch it when you get time. So with that, I will stop. And we can probably take up questions. Vikas, back to you for questions.
Great. Thank you, Shantanu. Amazing session. Bang on time, guys. So we have 12 minutes. If you want to ask a live question, go ahead, raise your hand, and I will unmute you. Question, guys, raise your hand. Yeah, we'll paste it in the chat. So Shantanu, can you paste the links in chat, the YouTube video you talked about? Okay,
Yeah,
Balwant, I'm unmuting you. Allow Mike. Go ahead, ask your question now.
Am I audible?
Yeah, Balwant, go ahead.
Thank you, Vikasji, and thank you, Sushant, for this wonderful session. My question is the line you said that technology alone is not enough. That's very good line. Culture is also required in an organization. The question is that in organizations we have seen that some people are blue-eyed boys for the management, and they take processes controls as a granted. So how to and conflict of interest comes in between management and information security. So how to handle these situations psychologically? If I say we have technical controls over here, but psychological controls should be there, like how to handle, how to control these situations.
Tricky question actually. There's no real straight answer for it. But primarily, I think the culture part of it, which I, again, like you said, right? I mean, it's very important. It has to flow from top down, definitely. If it is the higher management which is violating that, then that's a really difficult situation to deal with, I would say. ultimately policy makers have to be there. What I would say is, from my experience, what I have seen, if the organization has a maker and a checker team, so there are people who are making the policies, but there are also a checker who is going to ensure that they are making the right policies. That is going to be super important there. So they keep the others in check all the time. So, and nothing gets passed without just the which is just one single party. It will need concurrence from all of them. Just it's not really I know it's not really an answer to your question, but something that I have seen organizations work very beautifully with that kind of scenario, and it really builds up a very beautiful working culture from then on.
Cool, cool. Let's move to next question. Ashok ji, go ahead, ask your question now.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Thanks, Shantanu, for such a wonderful insight into the subject. And most of our, if we see last few years reports, it is the insider which is, either intentional or unintentional. The breaches have taken place because of insiders only. Now, my question is, can we predict? You brought out so many type of insiders. Is it possible to predict with the behavior of a user?
Is it possible to predict with a?
Is it possible to predict a malicious insider with the help of online behavior of a person?
To a certain extent, yes, we can say it is possible to predict to a certain extent, but it all depends on how many malicious activities he does, right? It also depends on what kind of technical level, that technical abilities of that person involved himself also. So I'm sure you would have probably seen a lot of articles out there. There are insiders who are really very well aware of what is monitoring them. So they go around they will be able to evade the defenses as much as possible. But if they are touching the corporate resources, if there is any kind of activities that they are doing with the applications that they are entitled access to, then yes, it is possible to determine the maliciousness of the user. So like I said, the dynamic policy part of it, which I covered in the presentation, right? That is something that is having an element of artificial intelligence or machine learning, which will, and it has threat models in it. So primarily it will monitor those users. It will drop down the scores as and when they do any kind of malicious activities, and you can dynamically adjust the policies there. That's one way to deal with it. But again, it will have its own fallacies, because you cannot monitor the user for a very long time, right? You cannot monitor him for years together. If he's there for a long time and he's taking his own sweet time to carry out the threats, then it becomes all the more difficult. That is where probably a dedicated threat management, insider threat management program will be able to help you. Again, it is not foolproof. That is one aspect of it. Secondly, till the threat is actually carried out, you cannot take any action on it just because he's exhibiting certain suspicious behaviors. You cannot do anything about it unless he has actually done harm. That's the other part of it, which is after the fact, you can say.
Great, sounds good, Shantanu. We have left with 6 minutes and we can probably take 2 short questions. So Dr. Rajan, go ahead, ask your question, please.
Happy afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, Chief, go ahead.
All right. OK, thank you so much. I think you touched upon a very important and sensitive subject, because the moment we talk about insider threat, the human engineering component, the human security engineering component comes in. Just wanted a couple of 2 important aspects from my side. One, see, when we talk about the insider threat, what is very essential is the education from the top level to bottom level, because that's something which we need to keep the employees engaged at various levels. So the organizations needs to have a sizable budget speculated for it. That's number 1. Number 2, that's a continuous exercise. Number 2 is the predictive analysis, which means in terms of the behavior of the employees, that is actually going to be very hands-on for the CISOs and CAOs, which probably the technologies like you touched upon. One of the technology is the SOAR, along with the AI, which means the security orchestration and response, can help us in terms of predicting those kind of malicious behaviors and patterns which are shown by some of the actors inside the organization. These two, from my side, is what I look at very, very important to be addressed on this. Thank you very much.
Sure, Dr. Raghu. Thanks for those inputs. So while a few of those capabilities are still possible, from the the advanced analytics module, which the Netskope platform has, you will be able to get insights into the predictive aspect of it. To a certain extent, again, you cannot hold the employee responsible probably if he has some damage. On the continuous awareness part of it, that is something again which is you need not have big budgets for it. Trust me on that. There are, so for instance, in the Netskope platform, we do have a page which can be a coaching page. So if these are there will be borderline cases who are kind of probably on the negligent or the accidental insider side. They are making mistakes. They're doing things accidentally. Those can be coached as they work. You don't have to do dedicated sessions to them. The dedicated sessions for insiders will primarily be malicious insiders who are really frustrated, stressed out. They are actually doing a lot of damage. Those are the guys where you will need to intervene, and you'll have to take care of them at a personal level as well, right? Obviously, security of the organization being important, you cannot ignore the person who is hassled or disgruntled as well. So I would say, to an extent, technology here will be able to guide or coach the users on the job, not special dedicated sessions and separate budgets and things like that.
Great, thanks Shantanu, amazing answer. So we can now just take last question, and last question is, let me see. Yeah, so I think individual lowered the hand. So okay, Sanjay ji, okay, let's do this. Short question, Sanjay ji, please, because we are kind of running out of time now. Yeah, session is being recorded, and I'll show the password in a bit. Sanjay ji, go ahead now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I have a very basic question, that identifying or monitoring insider threats, it's a real issue. What is the method and how can we do? Is there any technology or software or solution where we can monitor or we can find out the insider threats?
Yeah, a good question, Sanjay ji. So primarily, if you focus on the actors or on the employees and try to predict or try to estimate what they are going to do, that's going to be a difficult problem to deal with. There will be lots of combinations coming out there. Obviously, there will be no evidence also on that aspect. If you start from the data side of things, in terms of data control, access control, the right level of controls, the right level of authorization for a person to access certain type of data, and what kind of activities can be done with it, yes, you can work it that way and reduce or mitigate the risk to a large extent. Because trying to deal with people is going to be unending. I mean, there is going to be millions of flavors. You know that people are unpredictable. You cannot really put a finger who will do what when.
Okay.
Okay, great. So thanks for all the questions, guys. 11:59, so we have to rush it now. I'm going to put a string in your chat. Okay, I'm just pasting a string. You have to decode that string. Anil Chiplankar ji, please don't post other conference details over here. Really appreciate if you don't do that, or if you can go ahead and delete it, please. Okay, guys, so the string decryption challenge, I'm putting a string on the chat. Whoever decrypts this, put the right answer on the chat, and then you will get a giveaway. You will get a nice soundbar. That's what the challenge is. Here is the string. Go ahead, guys. We'll give you 30 seconds to decrypt it. Anilji, please delete if possible.
Yeah.
You have to decrypt it. That's what you got to do, guys. I think I already see the answer coming in. Let me see. Diwali party is on. Sandesh. Oh, no. Before Sandesh, which one is the first one? Okay. Mohit Kumar. Yes, Diwali party is on is the right answer. It's a base 64 decoded string. That's what you got to decode. So Mohit, go ahead. Send me a WhatsApp, right? I believe you have my number, right? So send me a WhatsApp and you will get this gift. Let me show you what you got to do with this string. So this string is again your password to download the certificate. So copy Diwali party is on and go to EliteCISOs website, click on events, click on upcoming events. This will take you to upcoming events page. Click on CP certificate. Put your email address, put your full name, and then put the password. Let me mute who is speaking. Let me check. Put that string out there and then you can download your certificate. Okay. People, and then mute everyone and mute. Cool. Sanjay, you are muted now. Okay, guys, you got it. If you want to download a certificate that looks like this, what you got to do is go to EliteCISO's website, click on events, click on upcoming events, click on CP certificate. This will take you to a Google form. Put your email address where you want the string, where you want the certificate, put your full name, and the password to download certificate is Diwali party is on. Why Diwali party is on as a password? Because on 19th of October, we are having a Diwali party with Orca. It's going to be one of the amazing event of EliteCISO. So if you are CIO CISO, if you are based out of Delhi NCR, you are more than welcome to attend this party. Go ahead and register for it so that we can send you a formal invite. Apart from it, if you are already here on this page, you might want to register for our October's 2 webinars which are already planned. So next week we have a webinar with Palo Alto and we will talk about the top threats in cloud environment. So first 100 people to register for Palo Alto event will go into Wheel of Fortune like this, which I will talk about in a minute. So go ahead guys, register for Palo Alto event, and NetCentris event is also there on 13th of October, right? So these 2 events of October are already live apart from Diwali party. So you can go ahead and register for these. I'm kind of rushing because it's already 12:02. If you are CIO CISO and if you are not EliteCISO member, you can go ahead and register yourself over here. It is, so we have a closed WhatsApp groups in different cities, so where we have the chapter. So if you want to become the member, if you want to be in those WhatsApp groups, you can go ahead and register over here. Our team will verify the submission and then we will add you in the respective chapter group. With this, the last thing that we are waiting for is the Wheel of Fortune. These are the people who support EliteCISO on LinkedIn, our posts that we make over there. So all the people who like, their names are here. I'm going to spin it. If your name comes, go to the chat and say, yes, you are in this session. Here goes the first one. And the first winner is, let's see, Manish Agarwal. Manish is my close friend and he always attends sessions. So I'm not sure whether he's there in the session today or not. He's kind of visiting US, I believe. I don't see a yes coming from Manish. No, Manish is not there right now. He's member of Delhi chapter. Manish is there. Awesome, Manish. Congratulations. Okay, so first one is gone. This is the second one. We are only doing 3. So first one is gone for the string. Second has gone to Manish and third one goes to Sridhar A. So Sridhar, if you are there in the session, go to the chat and say yes. Let me go back to the chat and check. Sridhar is not there. Manish, I can see. Sridhar A is there. Great. So both the gifts are gone. So great. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. It's been a great session. The recording, somebody asked, it is being recorded and all the recordings go in the events, past event section. Okay, guys, all the recording go over here. Past few recording links we have not yet posted, so we will do that. But apart from it, if you see, all the previous links are available. You can simply click on play and then you will be able to watch the previous recording and previous videos. With this, sorry guys, we kind of got 4 minutes late. Apologies for that. But great session. Thanks for joining in. Shantanu, amazing job you have done explaining about insider threat. So really appreciate it. Okay, guys, bye. See you guys next week when we have the event with Palo Alto and hopefully for the Diwali party as well. So bye for now.
Thank you all. Bye.